Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and JD Vance does not hold back on this reporter and reminds everyone in attendance of what we're actually doing in Washington, D.C. when it comes to the National Guard. Let's dive in.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you to the Vice President for bringing us here today. Thank you, Secretary, for your leadership. And most importantly, thank you to the men and women of the National Guard. I think here's the most important point. There are residents who lived in Washington, D.C. their entire lives. Their parents lived here. Their grandparents lived here. And they have lived for generations in intolerable conditions of crime and decay. There are parts of the city, I moved to the city 20 years ago. There are places where I've seen graffiti that has been untouched for 2 decades. There are homeless encampments that have made it impossible for families to use public parks and public recreation for as long as I've lived here. There are hundreds of residents of this city who are shot in street violence every single year, making it one of the most violent cities on planet Earth. And for too long, 99% of this city has been terrorized by 1% of the city. And the voices that you hear out there, those crazy communists, they have no roots. They have no connections to the city. They have no families they are raising in this city. They have no one that they are sending to school in this city. They have no jobs in this city. They have no connections to this community at all. But they're the ones who've been advocating for the 1%, the criminals, the killers, the rapists, the drug dealers. And I'm glad they're here today. Because me, Pete, and the Vice President are all going to leave here, and inspired by them, we're going to add thousands more resources to this city to get the criminals and the gang members out of here. We're going to dismantle those networks, and we're going to prove that a city can serve for the law-abiding citizens who live there. We are not going to let the communists destroy a great American city, let alone the nation's capital. And let's just also address one other thing. All these demonstrators that you've seen out here in recent days, all of these elderly white hippies, they're not part of the city and never have been. And by the way, most of the citizens who live in Washington, D.C. are black. This is not a city that has had any safety for its black citizens for generations. And President Trump is the one who is fixing that with the support of the Metropolitan Police Department, the support of the National Guard, and our federal law enforcement officers. So we're going to ignore these stupid white hippies that all need to go home and take a nap because they're all over 90 years old, and we're going to get back to the business of protecting the American people and the citizens of Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Stephen. A few questions.
Are you going to be releasing evidence of this?
Of what? That D.C. has a terrible crime problem? You just got to look around. Obviously, D.C. has a terrible crime problem. The Department of Justice statistics back it up. The FBI statistics back it up. Just talk to a resident of this city, this beautiful, great American city. Don't they deserve... we talk about human rights. We hear these people outside screaming, free D.C. Let's free D.C. from lawlessness. Let's free Washington, D.C. from one of the highest murder rates in the entire world. Let's free Washington, D.C. so that young families can walk around and feel safe and secure. That's what we're trying to free D.C. from. And as Stephen said, it's kind of bizarre that we have a bunch of old, primarily white people who are out there protesting the policies that keep people safe when they've never felt danger in their entire lives.
Shocker, a reporter ends up asking a ridiculous question and JD Vance clocks it out of the park. This is a fantastic way to deal with the mainstream media. Deal with disgust because you have to be there, but you don't want to. You don't want to deal with these reporters because they care more about getting viewership than they do of an actual story. They're asking for crime statistics. Do you want to talk about the data? We'll get to the data in a minute. That's how you're supposed to handle this. With disgust, disdain, and what are you talking about? It's awful over here. It really is. Outside of a handful of neighborhoods right around Capitol Hill and then extending all the way out into Georgetown, most of D.C. is hilariously unsafe. All right, I would not want to take children on a walking tour anywhere outside of the National Mall. I am not dealing with that nonsense. Okay, D.C. is awful, and the people that are protesting this, they have no idea what it's actually like to live in these areas. Because what we've been seeing over and over and over again is that, well, let me illustrate it for you this way. Remember the No Kings protest? They are all old and white. It's all old people. It's these old hippies who never had a family, never got married, and they're out there screaming bloody murder at a situation that they could have avoided if they had realized, well, maybe we accidentally created this. But getting Democrats to look inwards is not exactly an easy task. And that's why I rag on the mainstream media as often as I do, because they refuse to self-correct any of their major problems. And when it comes to major problems, particularly when it comes to crime, it turns out that a lawsuit was just settled because of this whistleblowing cop. Seriously, this is what happened. In this lawsuit from 2020, Sergeant Charlotte Josum claimed that MPD routinely misclassified crimes and that districts compete against each other to get the largest reduction in the crime statistics. In other words, the way the money is allocated, if there's more crime, you're going to get more money for your district. Sorry, it might be the other way around. But regardless of that, it is endemic of a system that is trying to actually deal and help with their citizens, and turns out the people are fudging the numbers in order to get different amounts of money into their district. That is a huge problem. Normally we'd call that corruption, but in blue cities, that's called Tuesday. That's just the sad reality, that these Democrat-run cities fudge their own numbers, not only because it changes the outlook in major crime statistics, but it becomes a way to weaponize certain parts of the city against the other side. You can't do that. You cannot do that and serve your people. This is absolutely terrible. And the lawsuit just got settled a couple of days ago. All right, this is actually one of the bigger stories that has come to light ever since Donald Trump decided, DC, you're not really good at governing yourself. We're going to come in and have the National Guard for about a month. Okay? We're going to help you with your problems. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And now the cat is out of the bag. All eyes are on DC, and the Democrats in that area are unusually quiet. I mean, without the, screaming communists in the background. And Stephen Miller is right to call these people communists, because that's the best term for them. People that do not want to take a hard look in the mirror, people who do not want to talk about reality. They want to talk about oppressor versus the oppressed. When the reality is, most of these communists are advocating for the worst possible policies to fix these problems. This is how you get guys like Mandami running for New York City mayor. He's likely going to win, y'all. That is the sad reality. They're actively electing communists and socialists now to represent the new Democrat Party, because the old Democrat Party didn't do their jobs properly and constantly catered to the whims of these crazy people in the balcony. All right? These people are communists. They want to see America fall. They want to see America fail. And they do not want the Trump administration fixing the problems. Meanwhile, smarter Democrats like Muriel Bowser is actually in the background kind of thanking Trump for dealing with this issue. And a side note here, I think I might need to end on this, but the personalities that you saw in this video. J.D. Vance, of course, steals the show and deals with this reporter the right way. But did you hear that speech from Stephen Miller? That's not Braveheart level speech writing, but man, that's something that would actually get me fired up in the morning. If I was working under that man, I would go the extra mile every single day, work from sun up to sundown because of speeches like this, saying that yes, we are going to turn things around. Yes, we are going to get things done. Yes, we're going to roll up our sleeves and make sure that America is safer. So yeah, Stephen Miller is probably the hardest working man in the Trump administration. That dude is a tornado of good policy. There's a reason he's on staff. And man, if he can rile me up with just a speech about something that I'm not quite as invested in, all right? I'm not a part of the administration. I'm sitting on my rear end here on YouTube. But if someone like that was constantly getting me motivated like that, all of a sudden you're getting superstar employees. So that is how you run a good White House. You surround yourself with people who are motivated. You surround yourself with people who will carry the message, like J.D. Vance. And then you surround yourself with people who are going to get certain things done. Pete Hegseth, his whole shtick is get woke out of the military. Well, folks, when you have guys like Stephen Miller running around crafting policy, this dude is just on an absolute whirlwind tear, and he is helping to make America great again almost as much as the other two gentlemen combined. This is how you deal with the mainstream media, this is how you deal with the communists screaming outside, and this is how you fix the problem that is endemic to our blue cities and maybe even blue states. This is how you govern. And you just saw it from three of the best in Trump's administration. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.